It's strange, isn't it? How the world keeps moving at the exact same speed, even when your own world has completely stopped. You wake up, and for a split second, everything feels normal. You are still you. The light is still hitting the wall at the same angle, and the morning air feels just as familiar as it did yesterday. Then, the realization hits you, landing in the center of your chest like a physical weight. That hollow feeling isn't just sadness. It's a sudden, jarring disconnection. It is the echo of a presence that was once the soundtrack to your entire life, now replaced by a silence so loud it rings in your ears. You spent so much time building a life around someone else, adjusting your pace to match theirs, molding your weekends around their preferences, and tethering your future to their plans. That when they are gone, you find yourself standing in the middle of a room that suddenly feels cold and entirely too big. You look at the coffee cups, the books on the shelf, and the empty space on the couch. And you aren't just looking at objects. You are looking at evidence of a life that no longer exists in the way you understood it. You are wondering who is supposed to live in this space now. And more terrifyingly, you are wondering if you even know how to inhabit it alone. This quiet isn't peaceful. It's heavy. It's the kind of silence that demands you look at the floorboards, at the dust, at the gaps in your schedule that were once filled with texts and plans. There is a specific kind of ache in realizing that the person who knew your morning routine better than anyone else is now a stranger. The grocery store aisles you navigated together, the way you ordered food, the specific way you navigated the tension of a long day, all of that is now just memory. And memories, in the immediate aftermath of a loss, have a way of acting like ghosts. They haunt the corners of your house, whispering reminders of what was said, what was promised, and what has now been left behind. You might feel a strange pressure to get back to normal, to prove to yourself and the world that you are capable of functioning. But there is a quiet dignity in admitting that, for now, normal is completely gone. There is no shame in feeling like you are learning to walk all over again. The disconnection is the hardest part because it feels like you've been severed from your own anchor. You were a we for so long that being an I feels like speaking a language you haven't used in years. It feels awkward. It feels lonely. It feels like you are a traveler, dropped into a country where you don't recognize the currency or the customs. But listen closely to that silence. It is not an enemy. It is a blank canvas. It is the raw, unfiltered space where your own voice has been waiting for its turn to speak. The weight you feel in your chest is the heavy lifting of shedding a life that was meant for two and preparing for a life that is uniquely your own. It will not always be this heavy, and the silence will not always be this loud. For now, just breathe. Acknowledge that the stillness is not a reflection of your failure, but a sign of your transition. You are in the space between the storm and the clearing, and that space, while frightening, is the place where you finally begin the work of coming back to yourself. You are not empty. You are simply waiting for the next version of you to arrive, and they will be well worth the wait. We often talk about heartbreak as if it's just about missing a person. We focus on the empty chair, the missing voice, or the sudden absence of a shared future. But the hardest, most unsettling part is actually missing the version of yourself you were when you were with them. You look in the mirror and you see someone who feels like a stranger. You see eyes that held a certain light, a posture that held a certain confidence, and a face that used to mirror back a sense of belonging. And now, that reflection feels like it belongs to someone else entirely. It is a jarring experience, this process of meeting yourself again. You might catch yourself doing things they liked, or avoiding places you both went, or even holding on to opinions that weren't really yours to begin with, simply because they were the ones who held them first. You reach for a book you would never have picked up on your own, or you order a meal you don't even particularly enjoy, only to realize that these choices were echoes of a partnership that is no longer there. It is a strange, phantom sensation, like trying to walk in shoes that don't fit your feet anymore. You feel the ghost of your past self guiding your movements, but those movements no longer serve the person you are becoming. This is where the confusion settles in. You ask yourself, who am I when I'm not defined by that dynamic? It is easy to feel as though you have lost your center. When you've been deeply woven into another person's life, you stop being an individual in your own mind. You become a piece of a puzzle. And when the other piece is removed, you feel like you are incomplete, jagged, and unable to hold your own shape. You might feel a sense of betrayal toward your own past, wondering why you let your own interests, hobbies, or even your own temperament become so secondary. But please hear this. It's okay to admit that you don't quite recognize the person looking back at you right now. That isn't a failure. It's a necessary part of the process. It is the natural consequence of untangling two lives that had become deeply intertwined. You haven't lost yourself. You have simply outgrown the container you were living in. That stranger in the mirror is actually your greatest opportunity. They are the blank slate. They are the person who now has the total freedom to decide what they want for breakfast, which direction they want to take their life, and what kind of values they want to stand for. When you look in the mirror, stop trying to find the person who was with them. Stop looking for the version of you that was someone's partner, someone's support, or someone's reflection. Instead, start looking for the person who is left standing when all the noise and expectations are stripped away. That person is quiet, perhaps a bit frightened, and definitely wounded. But they are also authentic. They are the only part of you that is truly yours. Embrace the discomfort of this newness. The fact that you feel like a stranger to yourself is proof that you are shifting. You are undergoing a transformation that is as painful as it is necessary. You are shedding a skin that no longer fits. It is natural to mourn that past version of yourself, but remember that she or he served their purpose. They carried you through a chapter that is now closed. Now, you have the quiet, sacred task of getting to know the person who remains. Take your time. Treat this stranger with the same patience and curiosity you would offer a new friend. Ask yourself what you like, what you dislike, what makes you feel energized, and what makes you feel small. Don't rush to fill the void with new label or new attachments. Just sit in the curiosity of being yourself. You are not a broken version of who you were. You are the beginning of who you are meant to be. This unfamiliarity is not an end. It is the most honest starting point you have ever had. In the beginning, the noise of the pain is so loud that we do anything to drown it out. It is a natural reflex, really, the desire to outrun the ache. We fill our calendars until there isn't a single minute left to think. We reach for endless distractions, scrolling through screens or surrounding ourselves with the hum of other people's lives, desperately trying to numb the sharp, jagged edges of the loneliness that follows us into every room. We are terrified that if we stop, if we actually sit still for 5 minutes, the reality of the change will swallow us whole. We treat our own company as if it were a dangerous place to be, constantly searching for an exit. But there is a point where you have to stop running. You have to realize that you cannot outpace a feeling that lives inside your own ribcage. The more you try to bury the discomfort under a mountain of activity, the more it demands to be felt. It is like trying to hold a ball underwater. It will always, eventually, bob back to the surface, and often with more force than before. As Carl Jung once observed, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is exactly what happens when we avoid the stillness. We make choices out of fear, we react out of old, ingrained patterns, and we wonder why we feel stuck in a loop. We call it bad luck or fate, but it is really just the unexamined parts of our grief driving the car. Before you can move forward, you have to be willing to sit with the weight of the change. This doesn't mean you have to solve everything, and it certainly doesn't mean you have to be happy. It simply means you have to be present. You have to allow the quiet to settle, because only in that stillness can you begin to hear your own voice again, a voice that has been buried beneath the echoes of what used to be. The silence is not an emptiness. It is a space of restoration. It is the only place where you can distinguish between your own true desires and the fears you picked up along the way. Imagine the stillness as a clearing in a dense forest. For so long, you have been pushing through branches, trying to see the path, trying to find your way. But the foliage was too thick. When you stop, when you finally plant your feet in that clearing, the fog begins to lift. You can see where you are standing. You can see the ground beneath you. You can start to breathe without feeling like you are suffocating. This is the hardest work you will ever do, doing nothing at all. It takes immense courage to sit in a room by yourself and not turn on the television. It takes bravery to wake up in the morning and not immediately reach for your phone to distract yourself from the feeling of the day. But this is where the healing actually begins. In the quiet, you start to notice the rhythms of your own heart again. You notice when your body is tense and needs to release. You notice when you are hungry for nourishment, not just for distraction. You begin to understand what your soul actually needs to feel grounded. Don't judge yourself for wanting to run, and don't judge yourself for failing to be perfectly still on your first try. It is a practice, and like any practice, you will get better at it with time. Start by giving yourself 10 minutes of intentional, quiet time. No podcasts, no music, no people. Just you. Let the thoughts come. Let the tears come. Let the frustration come. Don't fight them. Just acknowledge them. Watch them move like clouds across an open sky, and let them pass. You are not the clouds. You are the sky. You are the space that holds it all. And in that holding, you will find that you are much stronger and much more capable than you ever realized. The stillness is where you reconnect with the fact that you are still here. You are still whole, and you are ready to start again from a place of truth. Think about your morning coffee or the way you organize your desk. These seem like small, trivial things, but they are the literal building blocks of your identity. When you've been through a major change, these rhythms feel like broken habits, haunted by the memory of a routine you no longer share. You might find yourself walking to the kitchen and suddenly freezing, realizing that the way you made coffee, the radio station you played, or the way you sat at the table was tied to someone who isn't there anymore. It feels as if your very foundation has been cracked. When your daily rituals are disrupted, it's not just about the schedule. It's about the feeling of being untethered from your own life. Start small. Reclaim your space, one detail at a time. This isn't just about cleaning or moving objects. It's about a deliberate, conscious act of ownership. If you always drank from a specific mug that brings up a heavy memory, put it away. Buy a new one, something that speaks to the person you are today, not the person you were yesterday. If the music in your car feels like a soundtrack to someone else's life, change the station. Find new frequencies. Rearrange the furniture in your bedroom. Shift your desk to face a window you never looked out of before. These aren't just chores. They are bold, silent declarations that you are the architect of your own world. You are signaling to yourself that your environment now belongs entirely to you, and you are allowed to curate it in a way that feels comfortable to your current, evolving self. The power of these small, deliberate changes is that they help you reestablish your presence in your own life. When you change how you move through your day, you are literally telling your brain that something new is happening. It helps bridge the gap between the person who was with them and the person who is now on their own. You might find that you actually prefer to have your breakfast in a different chair, or that you enjoy taking a different route to work. These aren't just preferences. They are markers of your independence. Each time you make a choice that is solely for your own comfort or joy, you are strengthening the connection to yourself. It is also important to remember that these rhythms don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have a new, productive life overnight. Some days, your only rhythm might be getting out of bed and making a pot of tea. That is enough. Acknowledging your own needs, like needing more rest or needing to change the lighting in your room to feel more peaceful, is the ultimate form of self-respect. You are learning to listen to your body and your mind, and responding to them with kindness. By reclaiming your space and your time, you are essentially telling yourself that your life is worth decorating, worth organizing, and worth protecting. You are creating a sanctuary for your own healing. Every time you consciously choose a new habit, you are planting a seed for the future. You are building a life that doesn't just function, but feels like it truly belongs to you. This is the quiet work of becoming your own partner, of showing up for yourself when no one else is there to do it for you. You are building a home inside yourself, and the more you tend to it, the more at peace you will feel within your own walls. Keep going. The small, seemingly insignificant changes you make today are the ones that will eventually build the solid ground you need to stand on tomorrow. When we are in a partnership, we often develop a secondary sense, a subtle, constant monitoring of the other person's temperature. We become experts at reading their moods, anticipating their expectations, and adjusting our own needs to accommodate the flow of the relationship. It is a form of deep care, but over time, that antenna becomes so sensitive that it never truly powers down. Even when that person is gone, you might still find yourself holding your breath in a quiet room, waiting for a cue that isn't coming, or instinctively minimizing your own desires before you've even fully understood what they are. That antenna doesn't just turn off when the relationship ends. You have to consciously practice shifting that focus inward, and it is a task that feels surprisingly difficult at first. You might sit down to decide what you want for dinner, or how you want to spend your Saturday, and feel a strange, hollow sense of paralysis. You are so used to the we that the I feels like a foreign country. You have to learn the language of your own internal landscape all over again. Start the practice by asking yourself the simplest possible questions. Instead of wondering what might be expected of you, ask, what do I actually need right now? It might be something incredibly small, and that is perfectly okay. Maybe you need to stop working an hour earlier because your eyes are tired. Maybe you need to turn off the lights and sit in the dark for a while because the sensory input of the day feels like too much. Maybe you need to say no to a social obligation that you know, in your gut, will drain the little bit of energy you have left. This is the practice of becoming your own primary point of reference. When you honor these small needs, you are doing more than just satisfying a physical or emotional craving. You are building a bridge of trust back to yourself. Every time you listen to your own body or your own intuition, you are telling yourself, my feelings matter. My limits are real. I am a person worth paying attention to. It is a radical act of self-reparenting. You are essentially taking the role of the caregiver that you have been looking for externally and performing it for yourself internally. You will likely encounter resistance. You might feel guilty for prioritizing your own comfort. You might feel a pang of sadness because the person who used to handle those needs for you, or whose needs you used to handle, is absent. When that happens, be gentle. You are breaking a long-standing habit of externalizing your value and your attention. It is okay if you don't get it right every time. It is okay if you sometimes default to what you think you should do instead of what you want to do. The goal isn't to make it a perfect, self-sufficient island. The goal is to develop a relationship with yourself that is built on the same care, curiosity, and patience you would offer a cherished friend. As you get better at this, you will notice a shift. The world will start to feel a little less overwhelming because you are no longer walking through it, trying to guess what is expected of you. You will begin to carry your own weather with you. You will know when you are tired before you are exhausted. You will know when you are lonely before you are desperate. You will know when you are hurt before you are resentful. By listening to your own needs, you are not just surviving the aftermath of a change. You are laying the groundwork for a life where you are finally, truly in command of your own happiness. This isn't selfishness. It is the most honest, foundational work of healing there is. Keep tuning in. The more you listen, the clearer your own voice will become, and the more at home you will feel in your own skin. Memories are tricky, layered things. They aren't just snapshots of the past. They are living, breathing entities that can be comforting one minute and devastating the next. After a major change, these memories can feel like a room cluttered with boxes you haven't opened in years. You walk through your day, and suddenly a scent, a song, or a particular quality of afternoon light pulls you back into a moment that doesn't exist anymore. It can feel like you're living in two timelines at once, and the dissonance is exhausting. You don't need to erase them, and you certainly don't need to force yourself to forget. Memories are a part of your architecture. They have shaped the way you see the world and the way you've grown. But you do need to organize them. Imagine your history as a closet you are carefully clearing out. You don't have to throw everything away, but you do have to decide what still serves you and what is merely taking up space. Start by identifying the lessons. Look at the moments where you learned how to be patient, how to be kind, or how to be resilient. Keep those. Treat them like precious artifacts that remind you of the depth you possess. Those experiences belong to you, independent of the person you shared them with. The growth you achieved, the way you learned to communicate, the way you opened your heart, the way you stood your ground. That is yours to keep forever. That is your internal treasure. However, you also have permission to put away the parts of the memories that weigh you down. You don't have to carry the heavy burden of every argument, every lingering disappointment, or every promise that wasn't kept. It is incredibly common to replay those difficult moments in your mind, searching for a different outcome, as if you could rewrite the script if you just thought about it long enough. But that is a trap. You have to learn to acknowledge that those moments happened, accept that they were part of your reality, and then consciously release the need to relitigate them. It is acceptable to acknowledge that a chapter has ended. Think of your life like a vast, ongoing story. Just because one chapter has reached its conclusion doesn't mean you are deleting the pages that came before it. You are simply closing the book on that period of your life and setting it on the shelf so you can turn your attention to the blank, waiting page in front of you. Closing the book is not the same as forgetting. It is an act of closure, a way of saying, this part of my story is complete, and I am ready to begin the next one. If you find yourself stuck in a loop of nostalgia or regret, try to ground yourself in the present. If a memory feels too heavy, acknowledge it without getting lost in it. You can say to yourself, I remember that, and it was significant, but it is not happening right now. Then, do something physical to bring yourself back to the current moment. Drink a glass of water, step outside, or focus on the texture of the chair you are sitting on. By anchoring yourself in the now, you loosen the grip of the past. You are not the sum of your memories. You are the person who is experiencing them. You are the observer of your own life. When you stop trying to fix the past, you gain the clarity to see what is possible in your future. Be patient with this process. It isn't a one-time clean. It's a gentle, ongoing tidying. Some days, you will feel strong enough to look at the boxes, and other days, you might need to leave them closed and focus on the day at hand. Both are okay. You are allowed to take your time. You are curating your own inner world, and you are the only one who gets to decide what stays and what goes. Trust yourself to handle the weight of your own history. You have carried it this far, and you have the strength to carry it forward. A little lighter, a little wiser, and a lot more at peace. We tend to be incredibly, sometimes cruelly, harsh on ourselves after a loss. When the foundation of our life shifts, we look back through a lens of filtered hindsight, judging our past choices, our vulnerabilities, and our mistakes with a level of scrutiny we would never apply to someone we love. We whisper to ourselves that we should have seen the signs, that we should have spoken up sooner, or that we should have been stronger in the moments when we were simply being human. We turn our own history into a courtroom, where we act as both the defendant and the judge, relentlessly picking apart who we were in an attempt to make sense of why things didn't turn out as we hoped. But that kind of retrospective criticism only traps you in the past. It creates a cycle of shame that prevents you from healing because you are too busy apologizing to yourself for things that have already happened. It is far more useful and infinitely more brave to practice genuine kindness toward the person you were back then. That version of you, the one who was caught in the middle of it all, was doing the very best they could with the information, the emotional tools, and the perspective they had at the time. You weren't holding a roadmap to the future. You were just navigating the terrain as it appeared before you, step by uncertain step. There is a profound, quiet courage in admitting that you are imperfect. There is bravery in saying, I made mistakes. I was sometimes unclear. I was sometimes afraid. And that is okay. When you drop the pretense of having to be perfectly handled or perfectly wise, you give yourself the permission to actually heal. Perfection is a shield, a way to protect ourselves from the pain of being seen. But it is also a wall that prevents us from ever truly connecting with our own truth. You are allowed to be a work in progress. You are allowed to have days where you aren't handling it well, where the weight feels too heavy, or where you simply don't have the answers. Those aren't signs of weakness. They are the markers of a human life being lived in real time. Think about the way you would treat a friend who was walking through this same storm. You wouldn't point out their flaws or remind them of their missteps. You would offer them warmth, a listening ear, and the reassurance that they are doing enough. Why is it so hard to offer that same grace to yourself? You deserve the same compassion you so easily give to others. You are not a machine designed to be optimized and improved. You are a person who is currently mending. Mending takes time. It involves fraying and loose threads and patches, and sometimes it looks messy. That messiness is not a flaw. It is a testament to the fact that you are actively engaging with your own life rather than hiding from it. Let go of the should-haves. Replace them with the reality of what actually was. You didn't know then what you know now, and that is not a failure of character. It is simply the nature of growth. Growth, by definition, requires us to move through states of not knowing, through trial and error, and through the discomfort of learning things the hard way. Every mistake you think you made was actually a lesson in disguise, a way of learning what you need, what you value, and what you are willing to tolerate. Today, make a conscious choice to lower the bar. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy of your own kindness. You don't have to be a polished, finished product to deserve your own respect. You are enough exactly as you are, with all your scars, all your questions, and all your beautiful, messy imperfection. When you finally stop fighting against your own human experience and start embracing it, the weight will begin to lift. You will find that the courage to be imperfect is the most liberating thing you can offer yourself. It is the key to unlocking a life that is not just successful in the eyes of others, but genuinely fulfilling and authentic to you. Take a breath, forgive the past, and be gentle with the person who is doing the work of becoming today. You are doing much better than you give yourself credit for. When you're deeply enmeshed in a partnership, your interests often shift, sometimes subtly, sometimes drastically, to accommodate the person beside you. You might find yourself drifting away from the things that used to light you up, swapping them for the hobbies, schedules, or preferences of your partner. It happens so slowly, you barely notice it. One day, you look at your bookshelf, or your weekend plans, or your creative projects, and you realize they feel like relics from a different life. You might wonder, with a sudden, sharp ache, what did I even use to do with my time? What did I even care about before all of this? Rediscovering what excites you isn't about inventing a new identity or trying to force yourself to be someone you aren't. It is an act of archaeology. You are carefully brushing away the dust from the parts of your personality that have been lying dormant. Think back to the years before you ever met them. What were the things that made you lose track of time. Maybe it was the quiet thrill of reading a specific genre of book, the rhythmic satisfaction of working with your hands, the way you used to lose yourself in a particular kind of music, or the simple joy of wandering through your neighborhood without a destination. These weren't just distractions. They were expressions of your authentic self. Go find those things again. It doesn't matter if you feel rusty or if you think you've outgrown them. The point is not to master a skill or be productive. The point is to re-engage with your own curiosity. Your curiosity is the most direct path back to your own heart. When you do something just because it makes you feel alive, not because someone else approves of it, or because it's useful, or because it serves a function in a relationship, you are actively feeding your own spirit. You are proving to yourself that your joy has intrinsic value, completely independent of anyone else's presence or validation. You might find that some of those old passions don't resonate anymore, and that is a perfectly healthy realization. You are not the same person you were back then. You have changed, you have learned, and you have endured. Perhaps your old interests have evolved into something new. Maybe you loved painting, but now you find that the tactile sensation of writing or gardening feels more grounding. Follow that thread. Don't be afraid to experiment with new things as well. Take a class, visit a place you've never been, or pick up a book you've always been curious about. The goal is to cultivate a sense of wonder in your own company. This process can feel strange at first. You might feel a sense of guilt or a pang of sadness as you engage with a hobby you once shared. You might worry that by finding new things to love, you are somehow moving further away from your past. But think of it this way. The more you fill your life with things that genuinely excite you, the more solid the ground beneath your feet becomes. You are creating a life that is so rich, so interesting, and so deeply yours that it can withstand the waves of grief that still occasionally wash over you. When you start to feel that spark, that little flicker of genuine interest or quiet joy, don't brush it off. Lean into it. Protect that feeling. It is the first sign that the numbness is fading and that your capacity for life is returning. You are not just filling time. You are building a reservoir of happiness that belongs solely to you. You are becoming a person who knows how to be happy, not just someone who was happy with someone else. This is the most beautiful kind of growth. Take your time, be playful, and trust that the things that are meant to bring you joy will reveal themselves to you again. As long as you keep your heart open to the possibility, you deserve to be excited about your life again. You deserve to find beauty in your own space, your own time, and your own unique way of experiencing the world. One of the most dangerous lingering traps of heartbreak is the quiet, insidious belief that your worth was somehow contingent on being chosen, wanted, or held by someone else. When a relationship ends, we often internalize the separation as a reflection of our own value. We look at our reflection and wonder, if I was truly enough, would this have happened? We weigh our importance against the silence of a house that used to be full. And we wrongly conclude that our significance has diminished because we are no longer the primary focus of someone else's affection. You have to be willing to strip that narrative away, because it is entirely false. Your value is not a commodity that fluctuates based on the presence or absence of a partner. Your worth is not a reflection of the success or the failure of a relationship. It is an inherent, unchangeable quality that exists regardless of who is standing beside you or who has walked away. Think of it like this. The stars do not lose their light just because we are not looking at them. The ocean does not lose its depth just because it is calm. You are a complete, multifaceted, and complex individual, and your value is woven into the very fabric of your existence. It was there before you met them. It was there while you were together. And it remains completely intact now that you are on your own. When you start to realize that you are whole on your own, the terrifying weight of loneliness begins to lose its power. We are often taught that we are halves, looking for a missing piece, but that is a deeply damaging myth. You are not a fragment waiting to be completed by someone else. You are a whole person, with your own history, your own capacity for kindness, your own unique ways of viewing the world, and your own resilience, navigating a new, challenging chapter. You don't need another person to validate your existence or to confirm your importance. You possess everything you need to be a full participant in your own life. This is not to say that you won't feel lonely, or that you won't miss the feeling of being deeply known by another person. But there is a massive difference between missing a connection and believing you are less worthy without it. When you redefine your worth, you stop looking for it in external approval. You stop measuring yourself by how well you were loved or how long you were kept. Instead, you start measuring your worth by the way you treat yourself, the way you honor your boundaries, the way you show up for your own healing, and the way you hold space for your own emotions. Redefining your worth means taking ownership of your own story. It means acknowledging that you are the primary authority on your own life. It means recognizing that the care, the patience, and the love you were so willing to pour into someone else are qualities that you can now turn inward. When you start to view yourself through a lens of inherent dignity, you become a lot harder to break. You start to understand that you are not a project to be finished or a prize to be won. You are a person with a mind, a heart, and a soul that are completely your own. This shift won't happen overnight. There will be days when you feel small or invisible or replaceable. In those moments, remind yourself that you are the only one who has lived your life, the only one who knows the extent of your struggle, and the only one who can truly measure your triumph. Your worth is not a negotiable item. It is a fundamental truth of your being. By standing in that truth, you begin to release the desperate need to be validated by the person who left. You find that you are sturdy, that you are enough, and that you are perfectly capable of defining a future that is shaped by your own values and your own strength. You are not just recovering from a loss. You are discovering the incredible, enduring power of your own value. And that discovery is the most important thing you will ever do. Healing is not a straight line, no matter how much we might wish for it to be. It is a series of loops, curves, and sudden inclines. There will be days when you feel like you've made huge, impossible strides. Days where the sun feels warmer, the air feels lighter, and you feel like you are finally standing on solid ground. And then there will be the days when, without warning, you feel like you're right back at the very beginning, heart heavy and steps hesitant, wondering if you've actually moved at all. That is not a setback, and it is certainly not a failure. It is simply the rhythm of the process. You are reconstructing your life, piece by piece, and that kind of work is as exhausting as it is monumental. Be patient with the pace of your own mending. Think of your progress as a journey through a landscape that is constantly changing. You are not meant to move at a constant, blistering speed. Sometimes you need to stop and rest. Sometimes you need to walk backward just to look at how far you've actually come. You are allowed to have those days where you aren't handling it well, where the grief feels fresh, or where you feel like you just need to be still. These moments are not markers of how little you have healed. They are simply reminders of how deeply you loved and how much your heart is currently adjusting to a new way of living. As you continue to move forward, you will start to notice the subtle, beautiful changes. The things that once felt like insurmountable obstacles will start to feel like manageable challenges. The silence that used to feel empty will start to feel peaceful. A space where you can finally hear yourself think. You are slowly, surely, finding your way back to the center of your own life. You are learning that your happiness is not something that happens to you, but something you are actively building with every choice you make, every boundary you set, and every moment of kindness you offer yourself. And when you finally arrive, when you wake up and realize that the hollow feeling in your chest has been replaced by a quiet sense of presence, you'll find that you aren't just back to where you were before the heartbreak. You are someone fundamentally different. You are someone stronger, someone who knows their own boundaries, and someone who understands the depth of their own capacity for resilience. You are someone who has walked through the fire and learned how to build a home in the aftermath. You are finally, truly, back home with yourself. Do not fear the time this takes. Trust the slow, steady work of becoming who you are meant to be. There is no deadline for your healing. There is no right way to move on. There is only the way that feels true to you, the way that allows you to breathe, and the way that leads you toward your own authenticity. Keep your heart open, not just to the possibility of new experiences, but to the constant, evolving relationship you are building with yourself. You are going to be okay. You are already okay, even in the middle of the mess. You have already survived the hardest parts, and the rest is just the process of coming back to yourself. Take the next step, then the one after that. Trust your own footing. You are building a foundation that is entirely yours, a life that is defined by your own values, and a future that is waiting for you to step into it with your head held high. You are strong enough to carry your story, and you are worthy of all the peace, joy, and light that you are currently working so hard to find. You are finally home. Stay there. It is yours. If this message resonated with you, please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're building a community here focused on real, honest healing. And I'd love for you to be a part of it. If you found a moment of clarity in today's video, please share it in the comments below. Reading your experiences helps all of us realize we aren't navigating this alone.